Hey, welcome back, everybody. It's another episode of the You Like That Feels Great Baby podcast, recapping week 10, previewing week 11. This is more like it, folks. Resounding wins for the Niners and Vikings have us fired up as we head into the stretch run. Let's just get right into it. We just watched Monday Night Football. A lot to talk to you about, Joey, with that insane ending to that game. But let's start with the positives. 49ers absolutely thrash Jacksonville coming off the bye. Those are the 49ers we remember from early in the year. Best performance of the year for the Niners, no doubt. Going into that game is just a slight favorite, 2.5, 3-point fave. I wanted to bet Jacksonville. You talked me off of it. Thank God. What a performance by your Niners.
Yeah, man. It's been a while. Been about a month since we won a football game. Brocktober never happened. Brocktober did not exist, but maybe it's, I don't know, call it Brovember. I don't know. Maybe Brovember is going to be a thing. Yeah, no, that's if they play to their potential and they're healthy, it looks like that. I said it after the Dallas game. There's no part of me that doesn't believe if they're healthy and they're playing well, I think they're the best team in the league. I really do. The defense showed up. I wish it didn't take a Chase Young trade for it to happen, but I give credit where credit is due. Steve Wilkes moved down to the field, and the first couple drives, he schemed up things I've never seen him do, at least all this year. They had plays where Bosa and Young were lined up in the A gap, not on the edge. They were doing 5-man fronts instead of 3 or 4. I thought Hufanga was more active around the line of scrimmage than what Steve Wilkes has usually been using in the back end, and it paid off. 5 sacks, 4 turnovers. Trevor Lawrence, who I think he's pretty good, but I looked at his numbers today. I mean, his numbers are at best average in terms of yards, touchdown, interception ratio. But I mean,
you lived in their backfield the whole game,
and it looked like it's supposed to. I really don't think Trent and Debo are like that critical. I mean, obviously they're big critical, but like they should have been playing better in the last 3 weeks than they have been, especially defensively. Those guys, last time I checked, only play offense. So, yeah, Brock Purdy was fantastic. His numbers were good, but watching the game, he was better than even the numbers show. He made a couple throws that you're just like, holy crap! Like if he, like the one, I don't know if you saw the one to Kittle where he gets one-on-one, throws where he pump fakes and he's flat-footed. Like I did not think he had that kind of arm strength. Like flat-footed guys in his face hits him perfectly, and those are the balls that he and Kyle said it too. His first touchdown was a horrible decision. I said it like you when I saw it, like like that gets picked off. Like
that was
when things
Jimmy
are going
G,
poorly, that gets picked off. But the positive thing I can say about it is like this guy does not lack confidence, and that's something that I think Kyle feeds off of, because Kyle would just watch Jimmy just kind of wallow away. Brock's he wakes up every morning ready to fire the football, and yeah, I mean, again, when they are healthy and playing well, I think they could. I thought about this. I was like, the poor Jaguars, because like I mean they're really good. I'm not going to say I don't like people today saying that maybe they're not who we thought they were, but I'm like, I mean, maybe they are. I feel like the Niners could have played like the 85 Bears Sunday and like they were going to win, like off a bye. They're healthy. They're pissed off. I needed to see it. Like I was a nervous fan, like everyone else was. But like, yeah, I mean, like a couple drives in, you're like, this is going to be 30-3.
Super comfortable win, because from the get-go, it was Young and Bosa and Armstead and all those guys in the backfield from the first drive. And you're like, okay, looks like the defense has come out guns a-blazing. And then, the offense, as usual, routine first drive touchdown. I mean, Purdy was basically perfect the whole game. Absolutely essential win against a really good team on the road. And now you're looking forward to next week where you host Tampa Bay. And it's like, hey, all of a sudden it's gone from panic with 3 losses in a row and then the bye week to, hey, we're right back on schedule. I know Seattle won, but they looked really, really shaky in that game. They're still tied with Seattle for the division lead, but right now you look at the Niners and you say, man, especially with them playing Tampa Bay next week, they got a chance to really start ascending as they get into that really difficult, meat and potatoes section of the schedule where they play Seattle twice and Philly. So that's going to be real tough for the Niners. But, going into next week, you got to feel super confident. Niners are favored by 11.5 against Tampa Bay. That's a game where you got to just put the pedal down and just throttle them, right?
Yeah, this past Sunday, yesterday, means dick if you followed up with a loss at home to Tampa. Like, under zero circumstances can you lose this game barring, another Purdy NFC Championship game. I just can't happen. Can't happen.
Yeah, Tampa Bay's thrown the ball a little bit with some success. Like Baker has been better than I expected this season, but for the most part, Tampa's 4-5. They've had some really tough losses. I don't think that's a team that should compete with the Niners.
Tampa came here last year with Tom Brady and got throttled. So if they'd come here with Baker Mayfield and any given Sunday, I guess, but it can't happen.
Yeah, it's a good spot for the Niners, coming off a big win, coming home. Haven't played a home game since that loss to the Bengals, so that's a get-right game. Got to put the pedal to the metal and just spank the living hell out of Tampa Bay next week. Let's go over to the Vikings and Josh Dobbs, the biggest story in the NFL at the moment, the Pastronaut, 2-0 with the Vikings. He's just blowing up on social media with all of his posts. There was one last week where he was making all those highlight plays and he set it to Creed in the background and everybody loved that one. Then he did it again this week, and the fans, not just the Vikings, around the league right now are just rallying around Dobbs. What an awesome story. Easy win against the Saints. We were ahead 27-3, and from that point on just basically ran the ball every down and just protected a lead to win 27-19. We definitely could have won by more if we would have just kept the pedal to the metal, but super comfortable win. Don't say that a lot with the Vikings, but I am so confident in Josh Dobbs and the way he's playing. Over 300 total yards, 2 touchdowns, smooth as all get out. Feels like we have not missed a beat without Jefferson. We're 5-0 without Jefferson. We haven't missed a beat without Cousins. 2-0 without Cousins. Jefferson likely coming back next week. We're 2-point underdogs on the road at Denver. I was shocked at that line. I've already bet the Vikings +2, and that'll be in my picks of the week later in this podcast. But I'm feeling good right now. I don't think there's any reason right now to fade the Vikings with us winning 6 out of 7. Going into Denver next week, hopefully no hiccups there. As an impartial observer, what did you see from the Vikings last week, and what are you looking at heading into Sunday Night Football next week against Russ?
Just big picture, the 23 Minnesota Vikings are what's great about sports and what's great about the NFL. Because like you said, we were talking about a few weeks ago, a month and a half ago. Well, what were they? They were 0-4? Were you right? 0-4?
1-4.
1-4?
Yeah. And
you're like, dude, what do we do? And I'm like, hell no, you don't, Tank. Like, you play, you work all season, or you work all year to play these games. And look at you now. Rolling. Without Justin Jefferson, which, again, are they going to start to think what do we Do we move him?
Do you want to give him 5 years, $200 million when you're 5-0 without him?
Again, not to hate on all these other positions, but no Kirk Cousins and no Justin Jefferson, and the Vikings are humming. I don't care if they're playing San Jose State. That's impressive. Yeah, they look fantastic. Joshua Dobbs, which I was laughing at because he was Josh Dobbs, and all of a sudden everyone's calling him Joshua, which maybe he told people he wants to go by Joshua, which is interesting because people will be like, oh, Joseph or Joey or Joe. And I'll be like, no, Joey. So I always appreciate the people who no. Anyways, no, he again, why the NFL is great. People love Joshua Dobbs. even more in Minnesota.
Who has a higher Q score than him right now? Like everyone in the league likes Josh Dobbs.
Like,
even if you're a Packers fan, you're like, that's a pretty cool story. Like it's wild.
He's like talented. Like he gets kind of boxed in as like, oh, I everywhere I go, I get, or everywhere I see his name before, it was like, oh, he's like a rocket scientist. Like the guy's brilliant, right? It's like, but you watch him play, I'm like, this guy can play. This guy has talent.
He's mobile as all get out, which I did not realize. I mean, I watched some of the Cardinals games, and yes, he can run, but there's been 3 or 4 plays in these 2 weeks that he's been with the Vikes where it's like, we have not had that, not even since Culpepper, since like Fran Tarkenton, where a guy can be dead to rights in the backfield, somehow scrambles around and gets 15 yards out of it. He has been insane in that regard. And I love Kirk, especially after this last season and the Netflix thing where you're like, hey, this is actually a really good dude. I've criticized him in the past. Love Kirk.
By the way,
I mean, this guy, holy shit.
Which, by the way, that commercial with the Packers and the Cousins jersey people, you had to have seen it. Like, I just want Kirk to tuck me into bed. I'm like, you know what? Like Peyton said in the commercial, it's kind of weird, but like sometimes I kind of wish Kirk would tuck me into bed. I don't know. Like, but my point about that was like, Joshua Dobbs, like the whole Vikings feel like a bunch of Kirk Cousins type, like about the team, like just do your job. Like, I mean, they don't, especially without Jefferson. There's not a lot of guys you run to the store to like buy their jersey of if you're not like a Vikings fan, especially. There's just a lot of really good, solid players.
Yeah,
and the coach seems to have them all bought in by. You know,
I feel like in these last 5 weeks, I've gone from Kevin O'Connell is a good coach and we made the right hire to Kevin O'Connell is actually a great coach and we hit a freaking home run on the hire. If you've watched these viral videos of his post-game speeches and handing out game balls the last 2 weeks, I mean, holy shit, does that team love that coach. Winning 5 games in a row minus your best player, 2 in a row minus your franchise quarterback. Coach of the year, he's got to be number 1 right now. It's him and D'Amico for sure at 1 and 2.
I was thinking about that today. I was like, there's a lot of guys you could put a name for.
Some people saying Tomlin as well, but I think the Steelers will fade.
I thought if somehow the Lions win the NFC like regular season, you could give Dan Campbell it too. But yeah, I mean, if the Vikings make the playoffs and roll the rest of the season with Dobbs, and especially if Jefferson misses more games, like, I mean, yeah.
It's been incredible.
It's great. It's no.
This is, like you said, this is why we watch. You know, it's not like
the whole point. Like, I don't want to like crap on other sports on this podcast all the time, but like when nothing like that's happened in baseball for a while, at least. I mean, like Shohei's pretty cool, but like, and like, don't even get me started on the NBA. I mean, was Linsanity the last time?
Yeah. Bill Simmons on his podcast was calling it Dobbs sanity last night. And I was like, that's a pretty good comparison because it's been in the last 2 weeks, he's gone from that guy who was on the Cardinals filling in for Kyler Murray to like America's favorite quarterback. Like, it's freaking wild. This is why we like the NFL.
But it's like cheesy. Like everything is not like a Rudy movie, but yeah, that people eat that shit up. Like, the locker room post game, like your teammates clearly loving each other, love the team. I mean, it's like, as a fan, all you want is like your team, your players to like care. And like, I was gonna say this too. That I was gonna make this maybe my like feels great take, but it's not like an actual take of anything like specific. I just thought the effort level I saw over the weekend, like just watching games and highlights, like the NFL give a shit meter is high for the players. Like, sometimes you make so much money, like you don't see. I watching these games, I'm seeing like interceptions and like the people running back as hard as they can to tackle this, make sure you're in the end zone. Like just the way people finish the runs. Yeah, people make bonehead plays, people turn the ball over, but just like it's just the NFL product because of the way the players are about the sport. It's a fantastic product. Anyways,
it's like, the quarterback play has been down this year, but the effort level, I agree, is.
It's like, okay, is Kirk Cousins like better than Joshua Dobbs? Yes, like no one is gonna say otherwise. But like Joshua Dobbs, it's a fantastic story, and I don't even like saying story because I feel like it's an insult because you only say that about like Disney movies. Like, that's a great story. It's like, no, he's like can really play. Like he's making himself a lot of cash.
Oh yeah, he'll be someone's starter next year, and he could be our starter next year. Who knows? I mean, he keeps playing like this. This is absolutely insane. Kind of the opposite of last year when we went 13-4 with all these one-score victories and miracle finishes. This is just like all your best guys are injured. Everybody's pulling out all the stops. It's just an absolutely wacky season. We're 6-4, and we wouldn't have it any other way. This has been sick. Let's start looking into next week.
Minnesota Vikings have won more games than the Buffalo Bills.
Unbelievable. We've won 5 in a row, and there's so many good teams around the league that in the last 5 games have losing records, and it's like, who is hotter than the Vikings right now? And the answer is literally nobody. Like, I cannot believe I'm saying that after we started 0-3 and 1-4. Let's start taking a look into next week, week 11. This is the best slate of primetime games we have had in so long. It's been just a shit display of primetime games for the last 3 weeks. Nothing to write home about. Finally, we get some good ones. Thursday Night Football, Cincy at Baltimore. Both of these teams lost heartbreakers last week and have to have this one. Baltimore favored by 3.5. Best Thursday night game of the year. Must-win game for both. I thought both of these teams just absolutely shat the bed in their last performances. But, this is just a huge one. This is why, we're going to be tuning in on Thursday night. If the Bengals lose this one, they're at 5-5. They're right there with the Colts and the Bills, and they're, basically toast in the AFC playoff picture. If the Ravens lose this one, they are in a dogfight to even just win their division. Forget about the 1 seed. Forget about getting a first-round bye. Like, they are all of a sudden in a dogfight for the division. Great game on Thursday night. Do you lean one way or the other at that line, 3.5 Baltimore?
First off, it's the opposite of whatever the hell Chicago, Carolina was last week. Yeah, it's a fantastic game. It's uber importance being a divisional game. Cincinnati, Joe Burrow threw a couple of probably the worst interceptions I've ever seen him throw this week against the Texans. And then, the Ravens just could not close out the Browns. I probably lean Bengals only because I feel like I know what I'm going to get more from Burrow more than Lamar Jackson, who is having a great year. But I thought this Sunday against the Browns was
second half. He was a disaster.
Yeah, I never could go 100% in on Lamar Jackson with sometimes fourth quarter turn the ball over, especially at home when you're up big. And I just don't think Burrow's going to have 2 straight games where he throws some of the worst picks.
And it feels maybe like the pressure is even more on Cincy than Baltimore, given Baltimore's 7-3, Cincy's 5-4. So it's like, if Cincy loses this one, they're basically kaput. Like their season is probably like the ceiling is getting the 7 seed at that point. So I lean Cincy plus 3.5 there. That's going to be a close game no matter what, and that's going to be a great one. Looks like Higgins is out for that one, so that's one thing to keep in mind. Let's move into the Sunday slate. You got Pittsburgh at Cleveland. Cleveland favored by 4. My note here is that Cleveland is all of a sudden like an AFC title contender. They're 6-3. I think that's probably the best defense in the NFL. Like the way they played in the second half after getting just the doors blown off in the first half. Deshaun Watson was awful in the first half. Like at one point, I believe he was 2 for 9 with a pick and a fumble loss. Like he was awful, but the defense kept him in it. Pick 6 basically, got them the opportunity to win the game in the second half. I think Cleveland should roll here against Pittsburgh, who just cannot score points. What do you think of Cleveland after watching that game? Do you think they can not only win that division, but maybe go further given how good their defense is, or are you still not sold on them?
They're really good. They're a really good team. If Deshaun plays average, I think they could win the AFC. If he plays average or slightly above, if he somehow plays well, he's probably never getting back to what he was in Houston. But if he plays average to above average consistently, they're loaded. And even without Nick Chubb, their running backs, Kareem Hunt, Ford, they're running the ball well. Their defense, their defense is like not only just great at stopping. Their defense is like they can score points.
Yeah.
It feels like
and Myles Garrett, the runaway favorite for defensive player of the year. He's just having a month.
No, they're really good. They're really good. Pittsburgh is the sneakiest 6-3 team ever.
They've given up 25 more points than they've scored, and they've been outgained in every game, and yet they're 6-3. So fraudulent, but that's what Tomlin does. He gets the best out of mediocre talent. Classic Pittsburgh. I wanted to talk about Chicago at Detroit, not because of Chicago. Looks like Fields will be back. Detroit's favored by 10.5 at home. Detroit's firmly in control of the North. I think there's a really good chance they go like 13-4, 14-3, even given how easy their schedule is. But if you caught some of that Detroit versus the Chargers game, that defense is still really sus, in my opinion. Like, they probably should have lost that game. You give up 38 points, you probably shouldn't win that ball game. Obviously, Detroit's really good. They're going to win the North. They're going to be a high seed in the NFC. But that's a few weeks now where we've looked at Detroit's defense and been like, hey, that ain't championship level. So one thing to think about there as we move forward with Detroit. Let's go over to the Packers. They're at home against the Chargers. The Chargers are favored by 3. I just want to take a moment to say, as a Vikings fan who's been watching the Packers get Hall of Fame level quarterback play for, damn near 30 years, it's so great to see the Packers be this atrocious. Like, I'll be rooting for the Chargers in this one, but man, the Packers just flat out suck. You called it last week. We bet Pittsburgh and we won the game. This is as low as it's been for Green Bay and as high as it's been for Detroit in 30 years. Topsy-turvy in the NFC North. Pretty wild. I wanted to talk to you about the Raiders-Miami game. So you liked Antonio Pierce. You were like, hey, the whole smoking the McDaniels pack after the game, it seemed kind of kitschy, but it was like, okay. Do you think this is the spot, now that they beat the Jets on Sunday Night Football, that the Raiders are going to finally just fall all over themselves going at Miami where they're 10-point underdogs? Because I think so.
Oh, yeah. No, they're going to get rolled. But that doesn't mean they haven't had a great last couple of weeks. The roster is the roster, and their defense is not great. They've got to play the Giants and Jets, who the Giants are just pathetic, and the Jets, obviously really strong defense. But I think I saw today they've scored like one offensive touchdown in the last 25 possessions or something. No.
Josh Dobbs has more touchdowns for the Vikings than Zach Wilson does for the Jets, and he's been there for a week and a half.
Exactly. I think the Raiders had a really good couple weeks. I think they get, football-wise, sent back down to earth a bit. But again, I think you could have people would say you could have Belichick coach this team, they still get rolled, but I don't know. Might need to replace Belichick with Andy Reid or somebody else, because if Andy Reid, if Andy Reid coached the Raiders this weekend, they still probably get rolled.
It's a massive talent mismatch, but it's a good story, right?
It's a good story, but it's also just good for. Sometimes you just you have to know when you make a poor decision, hiring somebody, signing a guy, drafting. Sometimes you have to just admit, don't compound the mistake. Yes. And the Raiders would have compounded this hiring mistake if they just would have let this crap go on. And if the only reason to not fire him is because I don't want to pay 2 coaches, then fire him.
Clearly the right move. It's energized the team, and I think Raider fans love it, because it's I saw all these stories where Antonio Pierce grew up in Compton when the LA Raiders were there. He's been a Raider fan his whole life. He knows what the Raider way is, and it's got the fans to buy in right off the bat, which is so important after having basically a Patriots employee running the team the last year and a half. It's been cool, but I agree with you. I think this is where it comes back down to earth against a far superior Miami team. We got possibly the worst game on the schedule in the last few weeks. Only Carolina versus Chicago could compete with this. You got the Giants at Washington. Washington favored by 9.5. I think the 2023 Giants from this point forward could be one of the worst teams of all time. If you watch Tommy DeVito get the shit kicked out of him for 60 minutes against Dallas, like, this team should get the number one pick, especially now that Kyler is back. I think Carolina is their only competition for it, which the pick would go to Chicago. But, I mean, God, the Giants are just awful. Speaking of Carolina, you got Dallas -11 at Carolina. Dallas should roll. Another cakewalk game for them. They have such.
Why does Dallas get to play Carolina and the Jets and Giants and?
Yeah, and then Thanksgiving they get Washington at home, and it's like, God.
Like, they actually played well against Philly, but I just like once a month they get the Niners, they get Philly. Later on the season they'll get Detroit. Like, I don't want to hear about Dallas. Like any other team. They beat the living shit out of the Giants twice.
Congratulations. Yeah.
Like, don't tell me your point differential. Like, I don't care. Like, of course Dak played well.
What happened when you played at San Francisco? You know, what happened when you played Philly?
People are like, oh, we'll just take that game out of the equation. Why? like you don't just get to play the Jets every week or the Panthers. Like,
and now they play the Panthers and Washington back to back, and by that point they'll be 8-3, and the fans will be like, "Oh, don't watch out for Dallas."
Philly's next couple weeks is what?
At the Chiefs.
At the Chiefs. I don't know who they play after that. But then they play the Niners.
Yeah.
And
then at Seattle.
Yeah. Like, they could lose a couple games. They might not, but they could. Like, Dallas is gonna. I mean, it's gonna be, oh my God, Dallas and Philly, and it's like, no, we don't.
Yeah.
Like,
everybody remember this for like week 16 or 17 when it's Philly at Dallas, and everybody's gonna be like, watch out for no.
It's gonna be interesting though, because if Dallas somehow wins the division, I don't think they would get home field, like the 1 seed, because they beat each other up too much. Like, I think that would go to Detroit. But if Dallas wins the division and gets like, a home playoff game, I really do think that does help them because, but sorry, that was just my little rant.
Yeah, I mean, they're a paper tiger.
It feels like every time we do this podcast and do these lines, it's like Dallas -25.
Yeah, because they just got this cakewalk middle of the schedule that's inflating all their numbers. By the way, they did put up 640 yards of offense against the Giants, which it's the Giants, I know,
like,
but 640 in an NFL game.
I don't want to act like they did 7-on-7, but I mean, because again, Dak played well. Everyone played well. I mean, they did, but I just if his agent says, "Oh, you want to work on an extension this week?" Jerry should be like, talk to me in January. Thanks. Have a good week.
Yeah, the only time you've beaten Philly in a meaningful game, it was Gardner Minshew on the other side. So let's all hold,
But I will give him credit. I thought he played really well in Philly. They lost, but
yes.
I thought he played.
They were competitive in that one, but again, with Dallas, total paper tiger. Speaking of paper tiger, Jacksonville -6.5 at home against Tennessee. To me, that was eye-opening. I didn't believe in Jacksonville at all heading into the season. Then, I mean, I had to admit defeat. They got to 6-2. They won 6 in a row. I was like, hottest team in football. Watch out for the Jags. After that game against the Niners, yes, it's the Niners. The Niners make a lot of teams look like shit, but I mean, I'm really worried about Jacksonville. I haven't seen it with Lawrence to this point. I know he was good last year. I know he's got mediocre stats this year, but his team is doing well. I still don't see him anywhere in the neighborhood of recent number one picks that have had the kind of hype he had. Andrew Luck, Cam Newton back in the day, Matthew Stafford. He's nowhere near that grouping. But I mean, I'm down on Jacksonville. If I had to bet aside on this one, it still might be them, just because Levis has been pretty sus in his last couple games after really starting hot in that first one. But I mean, as a Niner fan going into that game, you were probably nervous, and then leaving that game, you're like, oh, was Jacksonville actually any good to begin with?
I really want to find it because I don't want to take, but I was watching, I forget which one it was, one of the, football talk shows on the Fox FS1 or ESPN, whatever it was. And they flashed Trevor Lawrence's stats and like ranking.
Mm-hmm.
They were all the major ones, like yards per game. Like the highest one that he was like 16th in the league in QB. And people are like,
he's behind Baker Mayfield and like everything.
People casually throw his name because of his height, weight,
draft status. Yeah.
Draft status. But he'll do like Mahomes, Burrow, and then the young, Allen, Trevor Lawrence. And I'm like, oh, what? Like,
he's not even Herbert level, not even close.
No. No. But again, people will say, "Oh, but he won that playoff game. He beat Herbert," and he did. Like he did, but consistently, like he looked awful.
Give him a free pass for his first season because it was Urban Meyer. But I mean,
I don't like to give free passes, but I'll give a huge free pass to that.
Yeah, but I mean, this is the year that they got to contend. Year 3 of a quarterback on a rookie contract and a stacked roster, and man, laying an egg like that off the bye at home.
I said it. I said the Niners would have beaten pretty much any team they played Sunday. I really do think they're rolling out of bed, ready to do some damage, especially defensively, which how much they've been dragged in the mud, especially Steve Wilkes. I thought they, but despite that, Trevor Lawrence looked, bad, really bad.
He did not handle that blitz well at all. I mean, he didn't have a ton of time to throw, but he had to get the ball out way quicker than he was getting it out. I mean, it seemed like he was clutching it and bringing it down every time Bosa or Young or whoever, Hargrave, was in the backfield, and he was just looking to just get down or just like chuck the ball away rather than trying to make.
He had a horrible pick. The one pick, he only had 2 picks. They were both bad, but the first one, Bosa beats the right tackle. He's chasing him. And like Trevor Lawrence is not, he's pretty athletic. Bosa hung with him and dove and got him by his feet. And then he just chucks it like Jimmy used to do, and it gets picked off. I'm still bullish on the Jaguars, but yeah. Not
just
really
because of the division they play in, they will be there at the end. They will be in the playoffs in all likelihood. But I mean, off a bye, you can't play like that. I don't care what excuses you want to make, what team you were playing. Off a bye to be that flat at home, rough.
It was bad.
If there's going to be one team that catches them, it's Houston. Houston's a 4-point favorite at home against Arizona. CJ Stroud has to be in the MVP conversation right now. Absolute beast. Best game of his career was 2 weeks ago. He threw for 470, and then last week, all he did was just go into Cincy and beat Joe Burrow head to head. Like, this dude is a monster, and D'Amico is right there for Coach of the Year. The Texans, I don't think they're going to catch Jacksonville just because of the gigantic difference in roster talent, but what a great story brewing down there in Houston right now.
I was thinking about it because this was a topic everywhere, like MVP conversation. I can't put somebody else first on the bat. Like,
yeah, who would you put?
My point is in the conversation. My point would be, if you really had to put a name down, I think you might put him.
Everyone that
the
you
only
would put
reason why
ahead of him has flaws,
Like they put his numbers up. Like people were like, "Oh, Lamar Jackson" before this week, like first or second guy. They put Stroud's numbers next to him. They're not even close. Stroud, what is he?
It's like 16 touchdowns, 2 picks, I believe, is what he's at right now. But he's just been an absolute beast. And the other names that you would put in that list would be Hurts, Tua, Mahomes, Burrow, Allen. And then you just look at all their stats right now. It's Stroud.
15-2. 2,600 yards, 101 passer rating.
As a rookie, with a roster that, is pretty rough. Yes, Tank Dell is pretty good, and Noah Brown's pretty good, but these are guys that were available late in the draft or available as free agents that weren't super desirable. So it's like he's making all this happen without a ton of top-level talent. His running game is basically nothing. Singletary had a good game last week, but Pierce has been just a total bust for them. He's doing it without much, and you got to give a tip of the cap to Stroud.
I know Lamar runs the ball, but Lamar's 10 touchdowns, 5 picks.
There is no way that you can put Lamar ahead of Stroud right now. I'm sure as we get towards the end of the year and Houston, falls back to the pack, things will change. But right now,
do they? That's the thing. Do they fall back to the pack? Yesterday was pretty damn impressive.
Yeah, to win on the road
my thing is contender. Like the only 2 reasons why I wouldn't you might not put him first is he's a rookie, and just I'm sure the voters just like if you win MVP of this league as a rookie, you better be way better than everybody else. I just feel like they just don't really want to give it to a rookie. There's
I saw a stat today. It hasn't happened since Jim Brown in like 1961. So
yeah, there's an award for offensive rookie of the year, I think. Yeah. So, but then they lost to the Panthers, which, losses all count the same. Doesn't matter if you lose to Carolina or you lose to Kansas City. But boy, I mean, if they win that game, like, where are they?
Yeah, they'd be 63.
I just hope at the end of the season they don't be like, oh, I wish we would have beaten Bryce Young. Wow. But no, the Texans should. I think they roll Arizona.
Yeah, Kyler, good story coming back off the ACL, played really well, had essentially the game-winning play on that epic scramble, got us the win in our bet.
I would have broken something if I was the opposing team watching a 79-yard, 13-yard run by the quarterback, like out of a.
It's like, how do you not catch him? Incredible that Atlanta let that happen, but good for Kyler coming back off the injury. Jets at Buffalo. Buffalo's favored by 6.5. The Jets are cooked. The Bills are basically cooked too. This is probably like the easiest game left on their schedule. Still got to play at Miami, at KC, at Philly. Like, they are so screwed. That game tonight with the freaking 12 men on defense when they were when the Broncos were lining up for the game-winning field goal. Broncos missed the field goal, and then they find out it was 12 men. They get another shot at it and win the game. Buffalo's turning the ball over all over the place, as you said before the pod. I mean, McDermott is on the hottest of hot seats.
Oh, it's burned. I mean, he's getting fired.
He's well done.
Yeah.
Internal temperature 160.
I was so wrong about Carolina in my picks, predicting Carolina to win the division. But I will say, I had Buffalo just on the sus meter since the summer, and it has. I mean, they look awful. They look more than regressed. I'm to the point I'm not sure Josh Allen's good anymore.
He just turns the ball over way too much.
Like, he's absolutely not a winning player. I'm trying to put like an NBA player. He's like a more talented, like, Jordan Poole.
I was gonna say he's like Jameis, because that's what I'm feeling lately.
What's the difference?
Yeah,
you're right. What's the difference?
Both guys are going to turn the ball over a ton and make some amazing plays. Like, it's amazing he's gone from MVP candidate, universal top 3 quarterback in the league to, hey, is this guy the new Jameis in a season and a half? It's nuts. Terrible performance by Buffalo on Monday night. They're 5-5 now.
Giants.
Should have lost to the Giants too. I mean, you look at that team, you look at the way Allen plays when he's at his best, and you're like, how is this team not 7-3 or 8-2? And then you watch the entirety of the game, and you're like, oh, this team is just a tire fire. Like, yes, there are big names there, but that team is the number one underperformer.
I know he fumbled at least once. I saw one, and I know he fumbled again, but got it. But I mean, James Cook every time I see him run, he runs hard. Like, this whole excuse that Buffalo doesn't have a running game or can't, that falls on the coach. And
Dorsey and McDermott got to get it right, or they're both going to be out after this year, and they're going to try to, build something new around.
I think even if they make the playoffs and even win one playoff game, I still think they get fired.
Yeah, I mean, it's just been massive regression, and that's, really since the Cincinnati playoff game last year, there hasn't been one moment where you've been like, look at Buffalo, like, not looking good.
It's been a lot of moments look at Buffalo, but it's like train wreck.
Look, a couple more games to get to. We got Seattle as a 1-point favorite on the road. This is a huge game for Seattle. They're playing at the Rams. They got to get to 7-3 with the Niners playing a home game against Tampa. Stafford is back for this one. It came out today that he will be starting. It won't be the Carson Wentz experience. This was, I believe, Seahawks -3 when it opened, and then when Stafford was announced in, it moved to 1. Seahawks so underwhelming in their win yesterday against Washington. They let Sam Howell carve them up in the fourth quarter, but they did come away with the win. As a Niner fan, you'll be pulling big time for the Rams in this one, but I think this is a good spot for Seattle as only a 1-point favorite on the quote-unquote road at the Rams. This is going to be a Seattle home game, basically.
Yeah, Stafford being back is huge. Seattle, it's always good to win games. Thanks, John Madden. But Yeah,
It's always good to win instead of losing.
when people are talking about your kicker at the end of the game, it's never good. Because you either miss something or you're kicking way too much. And good thing Seattle's got a great kicker because Jason Myers, I think he went 5 for 5 yesterday, including the game winner. Yeah, they're giving up a ton of yards. They showed it, I think, bonus coverage or somehow I watched the end of the game. And yeah, Sam Howell looked like Dan Marino back there.
Just slinging it.
And yeah, it's a huge game for Seattle because they have next 2 weeks, they have what, Dallas Niners?
Yeah, starting with the Thanksgiving game, and it's like if they don't get this one, I don't see any way for them to win the division. So, they got to take care of business.
And when I've seen Stafford be healthy this year, they look really good. I mean, tough game, but it sure seems like Pete Carroll has McVay's number.
Yeah, this year was that opening day game was such an anomaly with the Rams kind of spanking them. Since then, the Seahawks have been 6-2, and I believe the Rams have been 2-6. So it's like completely different story. I think Seattle's got a little bit more momentum than the Rams do in this one. One game left to go over. Probably the game of the year, Monday Night Football, Philly at KC. This is the big one, best primetime game we've had in a long time. Both teams off a bye, so they're rested and healthy. Super Bowl rematch, possible Super Bowl preview, the Kelsey Bowl. Absolutely one of the best, most anticipated Monday Night Football games, of the last decade for sure. This reminds me a little bit of that game where it was Rams KC, where the score was like 55-52 or whatever.
The only thing I remember that it was just points everywhere. Was just the I believe the Rams wore the yellow mustard jerseys.
Yeah. That game was nuts. That was like last score wins from the first quarter. It was like, I don't think there was any defensive stops. It ended up being, like I said, 55-52 or 51-48, something like that. But this feels like that game. One of the most anticipated regular season games we've seen in a long time. I lean KC at home. Andy Reid off a bye famously always wins, always covers. But, I mean, Philly's really good. This can be a hell of a game.
Yeah, I'm just interested to see Kansas City's defense because they look legit. And Philly, if you're able to slow down A.J. Brown, who, I mean, can make a case he could be MVP. He's been that good. I know people still want to go quarterback and say Jalen Hurts, but A.J. Brown has been damn good.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no really other way to say it's going to be a fantastic game. Hopefully maybe the Chiefs help out the Niners a bit, but
every NFC team is like go KC in this one. Every AFC team is like go Philly. Like this is one of those games where every fan of every team has an interest in this one. Like everybody will stop what they're doing to watch that one. I lean KC. Let's head over to Joey's Jack and the Bum of the Week. A lot of candidates again, as always. Starts off the top with Trevor Lawrence. Awful game against the Niners, putting up only 3 points. Obviously, this is a guy who came in with the pedigree of, hey, best prospect since Andrew Luck, maybe even best prospect since like Dan Marino or John Elway. Has not panned out, really not playing well in these last couple weeks. Josh Allen and the Bills, of course, have to be on there for that freaking Monday night tire fire, turning over the ball, 12 men on defense that basically gave Denver the game. I put Lamar in here. I know it's only one bad week, but that second half, 2 picks, including a pick 6 that cost him the game. Really tough from Lamar. And then I put the Chargers on here. Score 38 points at home. You cannot lose that game. And, of course, Brandon Staley, a defensive coach, found a way to lose it 41-38. But you're going in a different direction for your Jack and the Bum of the Week.
Yeah, really another great week of candidates, as always. Really, really could put Buffalo and the Bills and McDermott and Josh Allen here, but I feel like you could put them every week at this point. So to spice it up a bit, Jack and the Bum of the Week, Arthur Smith, Atlanta Falcons head coach, or king of absolute mediocrity at best. He's got a great mustache. That's about the best thing I can say about him. And his team is pathetic. The Atlanta Falcons have nothing going for them. The Atlanta Falcons drafted a pretty good running back in the top 10 and don't use him. The Atlanta Falcons have no clue what's going on at the most important position. Heineke got hurt, and in comes Desmond Ridder, who, well, he's not the answer.
No.
Ever since they've hired Arthur Smith, it's just been meh for the Atlanta Falcons. And
or worse than meh.
yeah, but I mean, even when they lose, it's like not even a story because like no one even cares. The Atlanta Falcons are a team quickly going nowhere, and that falls on the head coach. The offensive genius, or so not genius. That's a bit extreme, but offensive guy. They struggle to score, and they have good players. I mean, great running backs. I know they do run the ball decently well. Kyle Pitts, Drake London. I mean, they have pieces. I know the quarterback has just been the issue, but they're terrible. Losing to Arizona, we called it Arizona to win the game, but I mean, what are they now? Up to 2-8?
Yeah, Arizona's 2-8.
So,
Atlanta falls to 4-6. They lost to a Vikings team where the quarterback didn't know the plays and didn't know his teammates' names, and then they lost to the 1-8 Cardinals. Like back-to-back horrendous weeks for Arthur Smith. By the way, for those who don't know, Arthur Smith, the son of Fred Smith, the founder of FedEx, Arthur Smith is worth like billions of dollars, and yet he chooses to coach an NFL team poorly, I might add. Like, what are you doing? Just retire and go live on a yacht somewhere, like
might need to ship him out of town.
Send him FedEx 2-day express to Cancun because he's about to get fired soon. So there it is, Arthur Smith, Joey's jacking the bum of the week. Let's head over to my You Like That picks of the week. We went 4-1 last week. We were going to go 3-2, but you talked me off Jacksonville and talked me into Arizona. So look at that, 4-1. We're up to 31-17-2 so far in 2023. That's incredible. We're 14 over 500 through 10 weeks. Like, nobody is stopping this wagon. Hopefully this week isn't the first bad week of the year. We'll start with Miami -10. You and I both think the Raiders, this is when the Cinderella story drops off. I think they're going to get throttled in Miami. I like Cleveland -4 against Pittsburgh. I think this line should be higher with how bad Pittsburgh's offense is. I like Seattle -1. On the road at the Rams. I think it'll be a ton of Seahawks fans there. I think this is a game that matters to them and doesn't really matter to the Rams, who are at this point just playing for a draft pick. I like the Vikings +2 on Sunday Night Football. I thought they would be like a 1-point favorite in this game. When I saw Denver as a 2-point favorite, I said, I got to take that. And then KC -2.5 on Monday Night Football against Philly. So there they are. The You Like That picks of the week for week 11 in the NFL. Miami -10, Cleveland -4, Seattle -1, the Vikings +2, and Kansas City -2.5. Joey, it's time for Feels Great Baby, your wildest take you feel best about currently, and you're bringing it close to home on this one.
Yeah, I thought about making it a surprise because, we just bring the good news during this upcoming holiday season. But, I think the Vikings make the playoffs. I absolutely think Joshua Dobbs, I was going to give him a nickname, but nothing came to mind.
The Pastronaut.
The Pastronaut.
That's what they're calling. Mm-hmm.
Wow. The Pastronaut. One small step
for Minnesota.
Yeah. No, I think they're going to make the playoffs. The NFC is garbage, and you just look at the standings already. Like I think
they got a game and a half lead.
Everybody.
Game and a half lead on a playoff spot right now.
Yeah, I don't even think this is that hot of a take. Like, okay.
I want to catch Detroit. I know that's getting greedy with how easy their schedule is, but it's possible the way we're playing right now.
The Minnesota Vikings have a +24 point differential. The Seattle Seahawks are -1.
Yeah, we're a half game behind the Steelers, who are, I believe, -25. Pretty freaking wild.
I'm just going through this. Buffalo's got a +78 point differential. It's 5-5. Yeah. No, Minnesota, like, just look at the Saints, who they just rolled, suck. I mean, I know they're the number one team in their division, so they make the playoffs, but
Atlanta sucks. Tampa Bay,
Atlanta
not very
sucks.
good.
Packers suck. Rams suck. Commanders suck. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I mean, really, I think the only playoff spot even up for debate in the NFC is who wins the South.
The other 6 seem pretty locked in with the way the standings are right now.
I mean, there's an outside chance the Niners and Vikings play each other in the playoffs.
We might get the second pod bowl after all that. Hopefully it says the Vikings is the 3 seed and the Niners is a 6. Not going to happen.
Probably not. But I mean, it's either. I mean, I just don't see the Niners getting high enough. Like,
yeah, with those 3 losses and their schedule being so tough coming up, I think the Niners probably 12-5.
Who do you play?
So we go at Denver, then home the Bears, then a bye week, then at Las Vegas, and then it gets tough. Then we got at Cincy, Detroit, at Green Bay, and at Detroit. So it's like
that's a tough.
These next 3, you have to basically bank all of them if we're going to make a serious run.
But yeah, no, I mean, you're making the playoffs,
which is insane after starting 1-4. That's why they play the games.
I mean, yeah, I mean, just how it shakes out with the divisions and the math. I mean, it would either be. Well, you could also get a Stenholm Bowl.
So yeah,
if Seattle wins the division, which I don't think is going to happen, and I hope it doesn't happen, but could happen.
That would be wild if the
you could get a NFC North Bowl. I mean, there's a chance you play Detroit.
I think that's the most likely. Is we get the 6.
Because you'd play Detroit 2 out of the last 3 weeks of the season, and then play them again. You played Detroit 3 out of 4 weeks. That has to never have happened.
Oh yeah, that would be absolutely wild. I still think that's probably the most likely because I think Philly gets the 1. I think the Niners probably get the 2. Or say the Niners get the 3 and Detroit gets the 2. Maybe the Vikings are the 7 seed. Like I feel like we're on a collision course for playing Detroit. You know, like you said, 3 times in 4 weeks. I think
if I was doing it, I think the most likely scenario is it would be Minnesota as a 7 seed at Philly.
With Detroit as the 1.
Yeah.
Whew. Well, we'd get killed in that game. I would rather play Detroit. I'll tell you that right now. But so then you would have the Niners as the 3, the South as the 4, yeah. And then probably Dallas at 5, Seattle at 6, Vikings at 7. That seems pretty likely.
Yes, it'd be Niners hosting Seattle again in the wild card.
Yeah, some divisional matchups in the first round. But, I mean, I like your take because, obviously, I want the Vikings to make the playoffs. But I think going that extra step of saying that they have any chance in the North is taking it just a step too far just because we're a game and a half behind Detroit.
No, I mean, if I had to put any money, I think Detroit wins I think they're the 1 seed.
It's just such
because like we were talking about Monday Night Football, like, oh, we need Philly to lose to hopefully get the 1 seed. I'm like, is anyone paying attention to Detroit? Like, Detroit reminds me a lot of the Niners in 2019, how up and coming team, people really like, they're like, okay, let's see it. I'm like, well, you're eventually going to see it when Detroit starts rolling people in the playoffs.
Yeah, Detroit's schedule: Bears, Packers, Saints, Bears, Broncos, Vikings, Cowboys, Vikings. Like, unless they stumble the last 3 weeks, losing to the Vikings.
I think they're better than Dallas, but I think Dallas could beat Detroit at home. And I think that's in Dallas. Yeah. I would expect Detroit to win every other game.
Yeah, so that's freaking 12 or 13 wins right there. So you have the Vikings making the playoffs. I do as well. I think the division's out of reach, but I think it's just such an awesome story right now. Quick one this week. Let's close out the pod. Big week coming up in the NFL next week, but also Thanksgiving and Christmas are coming. And last week we did our top 5 beers. This week I wanted to do top 5 desserts. This is one we haven't done before. I know you're more of a savory than a sweet guy. Like, all you want is freaking cheeseburgers and steaks and that kind of shit. But we got to throw this one out there. Let's get your perspective on it. I'll start first. We'll do 5-1 like last week. Number 5, I'm going to start with Blueberry pie, just a basic pie that you would get at the supermarket. I always love that shit. I'm going to break up the pies. There's multiple pies in this list. So I'll start with blueberry pie as my number 5 and top 5 desserts. What are you going with number 5?
This is hard because like I don't even really have dessert. Like if I have candy or chocolate, like it's candy. Like
I mean, that counts as a dessert. I mean, absolutely does.
Okay. I know my top 3. You know
I'm
what?
kind of
Number
the same.
5. Number 5. You know what? I'm gonna go. I used to love these as a kid, and if I had one now, I probably would still have that same happy feeling. But you know, like those just absolute cheap ass, fake ass pies, like at Food Max or like Safeway, like the little tiny ones.
Oh, the like handheld ones?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The chocolate one of those.
Mhm.
Oh, I loved those as a kid.
Yeah, it's
Absolutely.
like the Hostess fruit pie or something, but you would get the chocolate version. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. That's a good one. Number 4 for me, I am going to go with just your standard carrot cake. Love a good carrot cake.
God.
You know, got to go heavy on the frosting and the raisins. I'll go carrot cake number 4. Got to be like a nice tall one, not one of those flat ones. Tall carrot cake number 4.
Wow. See, that's the problem. I hate carrots and I hate cake.
Whew.
Like that might be my biggest hot take of like ever is I think cake is so overrated. I hate cake.
Wow.
I don't get it. But I'm my number 4, and I could pound 100 of these down. Those like little tiny powdered donuts.
Okay. That's a classic. That's poppable, you know, for guys like us, go through a whole box of those in one sitting.
Yeah,
like that one.
I mean, family size is my size.
All right, so he's going powdered donuts. Number 3, I'll go the standard apple pie. I know Thanksgiving's coming up, and my family tradition is a Costco pumpkin and a Costco apple pie. And I always go apple. I don't like pumpkin pie at all. I just go big old slab of pumpkin or of apple pie with a big piece of ice cream on top of that. You know, apple pie a la mode. I'll put that number 3. What's your number 3?
Okay, now we're getting into the ones that clearly tier 1.
Mm-hmm.
Number 3, Safeway branded Moose Tracks ice cream.
Okay.
Like the peanut butter cups and the chocolate. Again, I don't even like ice creams like that much.
Mm-hmm.
But I could eat that all day and night.
Okay, so he's going hyper specific here. Safeway Moose Tracks ice cream.
Specific brand.
Like it. All right, number 2, I'm going to just go ice cream in general. Huge ice cream guy. My personal all-time favorite flavor is blueberry cheesecake, which they have at Lord's Ice Cream, which is a chain in the Bay Area, and then they have it at Fenton's in Oakland. They have it in my hometown in Niles at Niles Ice Cream. Hard to find that one, but I'm just going to say ice cream in general. I like all kinds, everything except mint, basically. I'll go ice cream number 2.
My number 2 is chocolate old-fashioned donuts. Those like crispy, they're like hard exterior.
Yeah, I think a lot of people associate that with breakfast. You're going with that for dessert.
Oh, I both.
Doesn't matter what time of day.
Yeah, if I'm awake. Yeah, no, I love them. Usually that's what I get. Like my mom or Kayla will get me for my birthday instead of a cake.
Mm-hmm.
Is like just a box of dozen of those chocolate old fashioned.
Okay, I love
Not
that.
the other kind, whatever it is. What's the other one?
Just like the raised.
Yeah, no.
You like the old fashioned. You don't like the fluffy. You like the crispier one. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. All right. Number 1 for me is cheesecake. It's always been my favorite dessert. It's always going to be my favorite dessert. But personally, I like it with like either strawberry on top or nothing. As long as it's just dense and freaking vanilla-y and cheesecakey. Cannot beat it, in my opinion. Just had one of these on Saturday for a like nice little surprise birthday dinner my friends put together out here for me. And I mean, I fucking cannot top a cheesecake. What's your number 1?
Like what is cheesecake? Like people, that might be a dumb question. Everyone listening, Like seriously.
So I
Because
think you
I
mix.
think of cheese, and when people say cheese, I think of like cheese on a burger, and I'm like, how does that get into a cake?
So you take cream cheese, vanilla extract, and eggs and sugar, and mix all that together, and then lay it on top of a graham cracker crust. You bake it. Sometimes you bake it like in a water bath thing to keep it from cracking or whatever, but you bake it and then you refrigerate it for like 6+ hours. So then you eat it super cold, super like, just like, I don't know, it's like ice cream without any of the like fluffiness or whatever. It's just dense flavor. Like, I freaking love cheesecake, but you got to give us your number one.
My number one, I think we did one of these last year. I think for Thanksgiving, like Thanksgiving things.
Dishes. Yeah. Yeah.
And I put this as like a whole freaking part of Thanksgiving, but it's like my favorite dessert of all time. And when I can pound these down, I mean, look out. Those holiday designed Reese's. Like we got the pumpkins, the Christmas trees, we got Easter eggs, the hearts for Valentine. Doesn't matter. Whatever I could pop those like popcorn, like I mean just
Others struggle with popping pills. You struggle with popping Reese's eggs.
yeah, people
trees.
pop pills, people pop that was bad. I was gonna say people pop pills, people pop their wives. I pop Reese's.
Man is addicted.
And I like the Reese's cups, but you cannot tell me that these don't taste different.
Well, they're thicker and they're bigger. You know, it's like all innards and no chocolate on the outside. It's like
But it's like even the texture part, because it's the texture that gets me. Like I like the Reese's, but the texture, especially when you bite into it, it's a little harder on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
Like even when you because I usually just whole thing, like don't like bite it.
Yeah, some people see that as a several bite food, not you.
Yeah, no, whole thing, and like the ridges on the end, kind of like might cut or like hit the back of your mouth or something. But if you pop the entire like pumpkin, Christmas tree, it just is so soft and it's so fluffy, and like it just melts in your mouth, and oh my god, like.
That's a shocking number one, but a resounding number one. Like there's no doubt in your mind you could have anything
Like the
for
only
dessert.
negative thing I could say about it is like I wish somehow you could buy them in bigger amounts.
I want a bag of 50 of them, not just like 2.
And don't make me like, because you know how some like you get especially Halloween, you get a bag of like Snicker bar, whatever, like the mini ones that like kids come, and you got it like the big bag holds like a bunch of little ones, and they're all in like little tiny bags. Like, don't make me open another bag.
Yeah.
Like, just have them in there. Speaking of Halloween, since this is about dessert, we went to Kayla's aunt, uncle, cousin's house, just because for whatever. Went there and but we left out. We had a little table. Left out a bowl of candy for. And he said, "Note, like, oh, take like 1 or 2 candies, like Happy Halloween, like because we weren't home." And but I have the Ring doorbell, so like I see all these people. First couple ones, like, oh yeah, a couple of nice kids. I could look through, like take their favorite 1 or 2. Then like the third or fourth one, it's like what appears to be an adult. I don't know if it's the mom, but an adult and 2 kids, and she's like, hey, hurry up, like we gotta go, like take one and go. The kids do. They take like 1 or 2, put it in their little Halloween things, bags, leave. Then the adult takes the entire bowl, dumps the entire bowl into her bag, and puts the empty bowl back.
Unbelievable.
And I see it on the Ring, but like I get notified. With this, I just kept getting them, so I wasn't really paying attention. But like if I was on my phone, like watching it live, I would have been like, "Excuse me," like
sus behavior. Please stop.
I mean, like, because I don't think these people know like they're on camera, basically. But yeah, I was just like,
what the hell is
I was
wrong
just
with
like,
people?
I was like, if it was a kid, I'd be like, okay, not ideal, but like, get the kid.
Right.
You shoo the kids away. I don't even know if they're your kids. They were this person. I think it was the like a lady, but like to shoo the kids away. And then
Even you wouldn't do that if it was an entire bowl of Reese's eggs.
No,
or, even you wouldn't do that, and that I wouldn't put anything.
I'd want to, but I wouldn't.
Yeah, because you have some measure of self-restraint. What is wrong with people? But all right, there's our list for top 5 desserts. Love it. Could not be more different. Obviously, if I had associated donuts with, my top 5, my apple fritter would have been in there somewhere. But, I consider dessert more of the cake, pie, ice cream variety. But we like that we got some value.
You actually like dessert.
Yeah, I guess you're more of an outlier. You like the breakfast items like donuts and then the candies, not so much actual like desserts you would order in a restaurant or anything like that.
You know when you go to a restaurant and they're like, "Oh, you get a dessert with this." I'm like, okay, like,
can I just get more wings instead of a dessert?
Exactly. Well, I just we'll ask if I'll be out with Kayla or my parents or friends. Like, well, what do you guys want? Because I ain't gonna eat it.
Unbelievable, but a good top 5 list nonetheless. We'll be back again next week for another episode. Hopefully we're recapping a couple more victories. Both of our teams now in a pretty great spot heading into week 11. We're getting to that, really make it or break it time of the year. Playoffs are coming soon. Vikes are 6-4, Niners are 6-3. Stretch run coming, some tough games coming up. We'll be here every Monday to recap these with you. Thanks everybody for listening. We'll be back again next week on the You Like That Feels Great Baby podcast.